This is Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WYO Radio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines. Presented Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WYO Radio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. And now, Dateline Wyoming.
Welcome to Dateline Wyoming. A programming note, today's regular program will be followed by a special edition of Dateline Wyoming as YO4 news reporter Tracie Perkins interviews Sweetwater County Commissioner John Kolb. There is a natural rivalry and competition between the students of high schools in Rock Springs and Green River, but twice a year they come together to serve our communities. In January, the two schools compete in a blood drive, and this month they join forces to support the Make-A-Wish Foundation. This is your host, Tom Ellis. This morning on Dateline, we visit with representatives of each school and find out more about their fundraising efforts and projects in support of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's this morning on Dateline Wyoming, following this message.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. And every single day, it's information overload. It's coming at me from all directions. And you know what? Bottom line, I just need the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town. They give me the real story, with information I know I can rely on. So where else can I find out what's happening in my community? Weather and traffic, things that affect my family and my business. I want to stay informed by sources I trust, my local radio stations, for the best entertainment, sports, news, traffic, and weather with no agenda and more reliable than other platforms. So if you ask me for the information I want anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local station. Text radio to 52886 today. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.
Our first guest on Dateline Wyoming represents Rock Springs High School. She is Amanda Verheit, president of the Student Council and a member of the Tiger Dance team. Amanda, welcome to Dateline Wyoming. You've got a pretty big thing going on at the high school right now with the Make-A-Wish program, don't you?
We do. It's probably the busiest time of the entire year for us, especially for my student council. It's nonstop for 2 weeks.
You're raising funds for Make-A-Wish?
We are. We're raising funds for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Wyoming. It's to help grant wishes of a little bit over 30 kids right now waiting on wishes in Wyoming, and so it's to go towards those wishes.
You're doing this in conjunction with the Green River High School, aren't you?
Right. It's a little bit of a competition, but we do have a combined business fund where all of our business donations go into a combined fund, so people from Rock Springs or Green River feel like they don't have to donate to one or the other school.
Talk to us a little bit about some of the things you've got going on, some of the events that you have planned.
Since today is Sunday, we don't have anything going on today. Tomorrow, Monday, the 13th, we're going to be having a volleyball tournament at our high school, and it's going to start at 7 o'clock. Anyone can sign up to be on a team. It's $30 for a team to enter.
That'll start at 7 p.m. at Rock Springs High School. What other things are you doing?
Tuesday the 14th, we're going to have our choir come around and serenade people for Valentine's Day. So students can buy the choir and borrow them for a passing period to serenade someone of their choosing.
For singing Valentine's, huh?
Yes.
Well, that's a neat idea. What else we got going on?
Wednesday the 15th, we have a Snow and Joe Day. So Snow and Joe will be donating.
Percentage of their sales.
Yeah, from 9:30, I think, till close. Also, on Wednesday, we have Nerf Wars, and Nerf Wars is $10 per person to play, and you have to be on a team. You can have up to 10 people on a team, and that's going to start at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Tiger Gym, the lower gym, on Wednesday the 15th.
Sounds like you've got something going on just about every day, don't you?
Every day we have stuff going on.
So what's the next day?
The next day is our last day, Thursday the 16th. It's our closing day, so we will have a rally for our students, collect kind of our final donations. We'll have our raffle baskets at the basketball games here in Rock Springs against Green River until the third quarter of the girls' varsity game is when we stop collecting money.
Is there a specific child that is actually raising money for?
We cannot raise specific funds for a specific child anymore because of reasons with Make-A-Wish and the whole Make-A-Wish Corporation. We are promoting all the kids here in Wyoming, and we're granting wishes for kids that have already been set as wish kids. We're promoting kids like Braxton Patterson, and he just got his wish in December. He was able to go to a Broncos game, and he met the players, and it was really awesome for him. And we're just kind of promoting all the kids that we've granted wishes for in the past. Our own Katherine Johnson got her wish granted a few years ago, and she got her show horse. She's now a student at our high school.
Is this for kids with particular serious health issues?
It's for kids that have life-threatening illnesses. They don't have to be terminally ill, but they do have to have a life-threatening disease.
That's the whole basis of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. This is the student council at the high school that's spearheading this whole project?
Yes.
It will end up at the Rock Springs Green River basketball game.
Thursday the 16th.
Lady Tigers varsity and the boys varsity Tiger basketball teams will be playing Green River. Right?
They will be playing Green River on Thursday the 16th.
It's sort of a competition, but in this particular case, it's really the point of the whole thing is to raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, isn't it?
Right. The entire purpose of this is to kind of push each other to raise as much money as possible so we can grant as many wishes as possible.
It sounds like the whole student body is going to get involved in this project.
Yes, it takes the entire student body to be able to pull these 2 weeks of Make-A-Wish off. It's really a lot of hard work, but we have an amazing student body, and they're always willing to help out, and we've got stuff going on every day.
Okay, well, let's back up just a little bit. You said it was a 2-week project, so what have you already done?
So far, we have already hosted a dance and cheer camp for our next generation Tiger dancers and cheerleaders. It was really awesome because they got to perform at our varsity games on Saturday the 4th, and it might have been the cutest thing I think anybody's ever seen, and that was fun. And the dancers and cheerleaders donated their time, and really, it was just, I don't know how to describe it because I'm on the dance team, so it's one of my favorites.
That's always a neat thing to see the little kids come up and, as you said, the next generation of dancers and cheerleaders, aren't they? What else did you do last week?
We did yoga on Sunday, the 5th, with Lauren Zanetti. She's an amazing yoga instructor. She donated her time, and she's also donating a lifetime of yoga for one person for our raffle baskets.
Were there other events that took place that week?
On Monday the 6th, we did our annual Mr. Irresistible and Date auction, and that's probably one of our most classic events that we hold every year. Had, I think, a lineup of 10 boys that were in our Mr. Irresistible pageant, and it came down to our winner, who, for his talent, played the Crazy Train on the electric guitar, and it was really awesome.
Who was the winner?
Wolfgang Dittman was our winner this year, and
okay.
He did a really amazing job. On the 7th, we had a Taco Time Day, which Taco Time was nice enough to donate all day long for both locations, and that was really amazing of them. At White Mountain Mining, people had to pre-buy their tickets, and they came and they got to paint this beautiful picture with dandelions, and it said Make-A-Wish on it, and it was really pretty.
It sounds like you've had a busy couple of weeks.
We have. It's been crazy, but we're going day by day, and we're really excited to almost be at the end.
Now, once more, the end of this whole program is going to be at the Rock Springs Green River basketball game on the 16th in Tiger Gym. If somebody wants to donate and they can't maybe make one of these events or so, is there a way they can do that?
There is a way. They can either contact Rock Springs High School and say they're interested in making a donation, and they will let me know, or there are cans set up all around town at different businesses. They can also send in checks and made out to Rock Springs High School or Make-A-Wish Wyoming to the high school as long as it's done before the 16th.
Have you got a committee you're working with?
My entire council. We kind of split up into different committees for different events, and we kind of take turns. We all have kind of our thing that we're doing.
Okay. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. We really appreciate this opportunity that you've given us, and we thank WYO Radio for all of the advertising and help that you've done for us this year.
Dateline continues following this message.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. And every single day, it's information overload. It's coming at me from all directions. And you know what? Bottom line, I just need the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town. They give me the real story with information I know I can rely on. So where else can I find out what's happening in my community? Weather and traffic, things that affect my family and my business. I want to stay informed by sources I trust. My local radio stations. For the best entertainment, sports, news, traffic, and weather with no agenda and more reliable than other platforms. So if you ask me for the information I want anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local station. Text radio to 52886 today. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.
As we said, fundraising for the Make-A-Wish Foundation is a joint venture between the high schools in Rock Springs and Green River. Our program now continues as we are joined by Lane, Megan, and Alex, sophomore and junior class presidents and student body president, respectively, at Green River High School. Welcome to Dateline Wyoming. Tell me a little bit about the events that you've already undertaken.
We've had some really successful events. To kick off Make-A-Wish, we did dodgeball, and that was really successful. And then following that following Saturday, we had an archery shoot. We had a home game against Kelly Walsh, and we did some things there. And we also held police versus fire department basketball game. That was interesting, really funny to watch. It was a good crowd to have. And then this week, we had a lot of events going on. You know, we were busy. We had Make-A-Wish, we had sports night, mini golf, the alumni game, which was Rock Springs versus Green River alumni. We had an escape room on Thursday. We had the opportunity to put our baskets out at the wrestling tournament on Friday. It was a good week. We had some good events.
This ends up on the 16th with the Rock Springs Green River basketball game, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
And what events have you got planned for this coming week?
This coming week on Monday, we have dominoes all day. That night, we have Duel in the Pool, which is our swim team versus the basketball teams. So that'll be fun to watch, some good, friendly school rivalry within the school. And then on Tuesday, it's Valentine's Day. We're going to do a taco time night since it's Taco Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're doing it's just kind of like a secluded little thing for our teams in our school, which is like speech and debate, swimming, basketball. We're doing a team dinner for them. We're going to host that for them to just let them know that we appreciate them and what they're doing for us.
The whole idea behind this whole thing is to raise money for Make-A-Wish, isn't it?
During school, every day we sell hat passes and Orange Crush sodas. Kids will buy a soda and we'll have it delivered to their crush on Valentine's Day. And we're selling T-shirts for $20, so you can call PMS and order a shirt. We have these suns that we're putting out in people's yards, so like spreading a little bit of sunshine around town, and you pay to have those moved around to different houses.
We're going to find out the results of this Thursday night.
Yes.
Between the two games, the girls are playing Rock Springs and Green River. The first game, and then the second game is the boys' game. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
How are the kids chosen for Make-A-Wish? I've done a little bit of research on the whole program, and I know it started in Texas, and it's been in Wyoming for a number of years. But I have always wondered, exactly how the kids get selected for that. I know in the past you've had an individual kid that has been selected, and as I understand, that has changed this year. But I'm just wondering how the kids are selected generally.
If any kid under 18 years old has a life-threatening illness, they can go to their doctor, and their doctor can diagnose them and send it to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And the Make-A-Wish Foundation will then select them and another amount of people out of the state of Wyoming, and the schools and communities all through the state will raise money for all 38.
And it is a state-by-state process. Things we're doing here is a Wyoming project.
Yeah. Each wish is about $7,000, and every cent raised through this process stays in Wyoming, and it is only for the Make-A-Wish kids.
How many kids are waiting in line for Make-A-Wish right now?
32.
32. I know that you don't have specific kids that you are raising money for, but you've got some examples of some kids in high school in Green River that are the type of kids that qualify for this, don't you?
Yeah, we have our very own Elizabeth Wilson, who has cerebral palsy. She is one of the kids that we are raising money for, and people like her. She was diagnosed with another life-threatening disease this summer and was approved by Make-A-Wish 2 weeks ago.
I think it's great. You know, we've got this rivalry between Rock Springs and Green River, and I'm really glad to see that it's going in a very positive way. This is something that's sponsored by the Student Council, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us just a little bit about what the process has been and how many hours you've worked in order to get this whole project going.
It actually requires a lot of hours. As far as student council goes, I know that just if you're solely doing Make-A-Wish and only Make-A-Wish, you're putting in over 60 hours within the 2 weeks and before the 2 weeks. It takes a lot of time and a lot of preparation. There's so many things that need to get figured out, approved by our administration. We can't just go out on a limb and wing it. You have to plan for this kind of stuff. It's all about the preparing.
Planning for fundraisers and exactly what's going to happen when and who's going to be there when it does happen.
Yep, we definitely try to designate the jobs to people in our council so it's not stuck on the same 3 people the whole time. You know, we get busy. We still have to focus on our schoolwork, be in class. You got to maintain your grades and stuff like that, so it's important to delegate.
I think it also emphasizes the value of volunteerism within the school and with the kids at school.
Oh yeah, it definitely shows who's willing to give up their own time to put forth for others.
Talk a little bit about the impact this has on the kids and the students as they participate in this whole program.
There is a large impact, and it's not just the impact on the students at the high school, but it's an impact on the students in the elementary school as well. I know both school districts emphasize Make-A-Wish in the elementary schools, middle schools, things like that, and I think that sometimes we don't look beyond just the student councils putting this together. All the little kids in our district, younger than high school, participate. They learn what life-threatening illnesses are. They learn about Make-A-Wish, and they also put their time and their money towards it, and they get to help participate. So it's kind of like it's not just a student council at the high school, it's a community service project.
It has a big impact on the kids that receive wishes. It has a big impact on their families, the people who treat them, and the kids in the school that actually participate in the project.
It is a huge impact. We try to put flyers together and PowerPoints together so the elementary level kids can understand like who these kids are, who's granting wishes. Our high school kids go to our 7th and 8th grade building and run a kickoff pep assembly, and they show the videos of kids in Wyoming, not just Green River and Rock Springs, but they get to show the impact of what other kids have been given as far as their wishes, and they share how thankful they are and their families get on. It's really an emotional community service project.
Obviously. How long has Green River High School been doing the Make-A-Wish?
This is our 15th year, I believe.
15 years.
This is my 11th year.
I just want to thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having us. And I think if there's anything that needs to be said, I think that the student council members from both schools, both districts, administration, everybody in the community needs to be thanked. I think sometimes we overlook that when we do our thank yous at the end, because there's so many people that donate their time and money. And so I think that just needs to be known, that everybody appreciates all the hours and money that everybody puts into it.
It's not hard to hear stories about kids that are doing something bad, but you know, when we're doing something good, I think we really need to let people know that it's appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. You are listening to Dateline Wyoming. Just a reminder of the special programming note. At the end of today's program, we will include a special edition of Dateline Wyoming as YO4 News reporter Tracie Perkins interviews Sweetwater County Commissioner John Kolb. As an additional bonus on Dateline Wyoming, we close with an interview with Wyoming Senator John Barrasso, conducted for WYO Radio News and Dateline by Tracie Perkins.
We're here with Senator John Barrasso, and thank you for speaking with us today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me on the air in Sweetwater County. Thanks.
And I understand that you're in Washington, D.C. right now, and you're working with the new Congress, so how have things been going over there?
Well, yeah, I still get home to Wyoming every weekend, and then during the week, I'm in D.C., and we have a new president. There's a lot of excitement around the state of Wyoming. People are feeling very optimistic in terms of the future for Wyoming, for our economy, for our ability to use the resources that we've been blessed with. Washington has just been fascinating since the inauguration. There's been if you've been following the news, there's been a lot going on with trying to get the cabinet confirmed, and some of the Democrats boycotting committee meetings. But we are focused on jobs and the economy and national security and getting the country moving again.
Yeah, and I did want to touch a little bit on the cabinet nominees. I know that that's kind of been a battle. So do you have an update on how things are kind of working out over there?
Well, we're continuing to confirm nominees. I'm the chairman of one of the committees, the Environment and Public Works Committee, that oversees the EPA. And we have a nominee who has worked, he's been Attorney General of Oklahoma. His name is Scott Pruitt. But he's worked very closely with Wyoming on a number of the lawsuits that Wyoming and Oklahoma have filed together against the EPA in the past, because the EPA has sort of lost its way. They've had these punishing regulations that made it so hard on our economy at home in terms of using our energy, using our resources. So I think he is absolutely the right person for the job. But what we have noticed is that the Democrats have actually boycotted and chose not to even show up for some of the votes for his nomination, to try to delay it even further. But we got him out of the committee. He's now in front of the entire Senate, and I'm looking forward. I think many people in Wyoming are very much looking forward to him getting confirmed to head the EPA.
So with those boycotts, what are the next steps moving forward?
Well, they're not able to stop it, but they are able to slow him down, which means that normally a president, when he comes into office, has had a chance to get most of his cabinet members in place right away. You know, you figure somebody won the presidential election, they ought to be able to have their cabinet. But there's been such an effort by the Democrats to slow things down and drag things on that at this point Donald Trump has less than half of his cabinet confirmed. And the last time it happened, it went this long after an inauguration, and tomorrow will be 3 weeks from the day that Donald Trump became president. You know, it was when George Washington was president in 1789. So it's wrong. The president deserves to have his cabinet. The people of Wyoming voted for Donald Trump for president. He won the state overwhelmingly. I'm trying to get all of his cabinet confirmed, and so is he.
And I know a really big topic throughout the election process and then ongoing is the Supreme Court. So what's happening with the Supreme Court nomination?
Well, you know, the Supreme Court nomination has been made by Donald Trump. He nominated Neil Gorsuch, who is a judge from Colorado. And I'll tell you, it is so good to have somebody from the Rocky Mountain West nominated. The things that I like so much about Neil, he's mainstream, he's solid. People that know him, and I've gotten some calls from some judges in Wyoming who know him and have worked with him and said there couldn't be a better person chosen. He's really, really good. Of course, I'm biased because his mom was born in Casper, Wyoming, my hometown, and his great-grandparents, interestingly enough, and a lot of your listeners will know the Wolf Hotel in Saratoga. Well, his great-grandparents were the ones that built it. So he has a huge background in Wyoming and the Rocky Mountain West. He is really an advocate like Justice Scalia has been in saying that the Constitution is a legal document, not a living document. It was built for rigidity, not flexibility. And he is a judge who was confirmed by the U.S. Senate unanimously and has a long history of basically applying the law, following the Constitution, not trying to legislate from the bench, which is what a lot of these activist liberal judges try to do.
So do you think that he would be a good person for the bench for Wyoming?
I think he would be really good for the country, really good for our future, really good for Wyoming. You know, he's only in his 40s, so he's young and would have a long possible career as a Supreme Court justice. I'm looking forward to voting to get him confirmed.
When would that vote take place?
Well, they have to have the hearings, and people are going to be very carefully watching the hearings. I actually talked to him today, face-to-face, and I'll have a longer meeting with him in the future. But it's not likely to happen this month, or we're hoping to get it done sometime before Easter.
Okay, so pretty soon, relatively.
Yeah, oh, yes, absolutely. We want to get him to work.
Okay. I know also the Affordable Care Act is a really big topic, and there's a push to get it repealed. How's that going?
We're moving along fully with that effort. You know, so many people in Wyoming have horror stories about how the health care law has made their life worse, and they've noticed their premiums going up, and it's just been one headache after another. They have more and more hassles that they're dealing with from the standpoint of the bureaucracy. So it's what I hear about every weekend at home. It's interesting because as a doctor, you get to hear people's stories in ways that maybe you wouldn't get to hear them if you were, just the senator. So I really welcome the opportunity to talk to my former patients, people I've operated on, to see how the health care law has impacted them, and I continue to look for ways to help relieve the burden of this health care law and basically try to repair some of the damage that's been done for to the families of Wyoming.
And if it is repealed, what would replace it?
Well, that's the issue that we're in the middle of discussing, how to make sure that people can actually get the care that they need from a doctor they want at lower costs. And a lot of that has to do with getting the decisions out of Washington and back home to Wyoming or to wherever state the person is from. Because if you really want personalized choices, personalized care, you can't really have government-controlled care or decisions coming out of Washington. So we want to give Wyoming a lot more freedom and flexibility of choice, so that people in Wyoming can buy insurance that we think works for us, rather than what President Obama said we have to have. That was one of the big problems with Obamacare, is that you had to buy you had to buy a product that the government tells you have to buy. I think it's unconstitutional. And at the same time, you had to buy something that President Obama said was good for your family, even though you might have a much better understanding, you would think, of what is good for you and your family and what works for you.
If repealed, what options would be out there for people who are currently on insurance from the marketplace?
Well, the problem with the marketplace insurance is the cost is so high. The complaints I get from people that in Wyoming is that there's not really a marketplace because you only have one choice of who you buy from. Well, that's not a marketplace; it's a monopoly. And what we know is that the insurance market around the country is collapsing because fewer and fewer companies even want to sell the insurance. So we'd have to be doing something to help try to provide relief. And even if Hillary Clinton had been elected, we'd be trying to change it now because of the significant problems in this collapsing insurance marketplace. We're trying to stabilize and actually get more people opportunities to buy insurance and affordable insurance by letting small groups come together and by dealing with letting people buy insurance across state lines. There are a lot of different things we can try to do, but so many of these have been made against the law under Obamacare.
And I do have a final question for you. Tom was actually pretty interested in this. As an observer, I think a lot of people get kind of confused as to what's happening in Congress. It sometimes seems to get muddled and complicated. Do you ever think that there's a need for reform as far as how things operate in Washington?
Well, I absolutely think there's need for a lot of reform and modernizing and updating. And you say, how would you do it? I'd say, well, do it the way we do it in Wyoming. Mike Enzi and I have over the years each year introduced a bill that basically said Congress would work a lot better if it worked the way we do in the Wyoming legislature. Because I think Tracy, Mike was in the state House and the state Senate in Cheyenne. I was in the state Senate for 5 years before getting elected to go to the U.S. Senate. In Wyoming, we balance our budget every year. We don't overspend. We don't spend money we don't have. We live within our means. That's what families in Wyoming have to do. It's what we ought to be doing in Congress as well. Number two is legislation that's introduced in Congress. When there's a bill, it can only be on one topic in the Wyoming legislature. Not so in Congress. They have bills on lots of different topics, and the amendments are on lots of different topics. And we think it'd be a lot better if we just made sure that each bill was on a single topic. You would debate that, and you would never spend money that you didn't have. I mean, those two things alone would take us a long way. Because people say, well, how do you decide how to vote in Congress on some of these bills? And I say, well, I give it three simple tests. Number one, is it constitutional? Because there are a lot of things that get proposed that I don't think are constitutional, so I'm not going to support that. I believe that the Constitution was written by our founding fathers for a reason. Number two, is it a good idea? Is number two. Because there are, a lot of things, that's not such a good idea, or hey, that's a good idea. So is it constitutional? Is it a good idea? And then the third thing, can we afford it? We have a lot of good ideas that we just can't afford as a country, not with the kind of debt we have and the kind of irresponsible spending that's been going on. So I think it's time that Congress ought to be doing the things that people and families in Wyoming do at home, which is you have to tighten your belt, live within your means. And so even if something is constitutional and is a good idea, if you can't afford it, we shouldn't do it.
Well, Senator Barrasso, I want to thank you for speaking with us today. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that we get to talk to you again soon.
Look forward to it. Hey, thanks, Tracy.
This has been a discussion with Senator John Barrasso about the happenings in Washington, D.C. This is Tracie Perkins with WYO Radio.
You have been listening to Dateline Wyoming with your host, Tom Ellis. Dateline Wyoming is a public affairs presentation of WYO Radio News presented every Sunday at this time, highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WYO Radio ownership, management, or that of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. Audio copies of this program will be available each Monday following the program's airtime on Sunday at youtube.com/WYO Radio.
And now today's program is followed by a special edition of Dateline as YO4 news reporter Tracie Perkins interviews Sweetwater County Commissioner John Kolb. That's coming up following this message.
I'm getting older. Do I need to worry about falling?
Yes, you do. Every year, 1 in 4 people 65 and older will experience a fall, and many result in serious injury. The majority of falls happen at home, so take a look around. Replace bulbs and add lighting to help you see obstacles. Remove things that can make you trip. Fix uneven steps and floors, and install handrails in bathrooms and on stairs. Consider balance or strength training exercises, which can help with agility. Get your eyes and hearing checked regularly. Changes in your hearing can affect your balance. To learn more, please talk to your doctor about steps you can take to help prevent a fall. You can also visit aarpfoundation.org or medicaremadeclear.com/falls. This message was brought to you by United Healthcare and AARP Foundation.
This is Tracie Perkins with YO4 News, and I'm sitting here with Commissioner John Kolb, who's also the liaison to Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Our purpose here today is really to address, there's a letter that we recently received from former board members of Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County Board of Trustees, Artis Kalivas and Jean Carmody, who were recently removed from the board by the Board of County Commissioners on Tuesday. So this is really just to address some of the letter and what was said in it. I guess let's just jump right into it. It begins, "Dear citizens of Sweetwater County and the patrons of Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County, statute reads that hospital board members may be removed for cause, but are then entitled to a public hearing. We both have decided not to ask for a hearing after the county commissioners removed us from the county hospital board on Tuesday. Although we feel we would be successful in such a hearing, we believe a fair hearing before the commissioners who removed us would be fruitless." What is your response to that?
Well, I wish to clarify a few things here. First off, the statute reads you could be removed for just cause, and the just cause is considered by the Board of County Commissioners, and it's not a contractual term. It's a term that relates to what are the reasons why you propose to do this, because the elected people of the Board of County Commissioners do have control over the appointment of people on the board and also control over the removal if just cause is thought to be needed to be used for the removal process. So they decided to ask. They didn't want to ask for the hearing. Now, let's just say they have the right to have a hearing if they so request. The statutes do not speak of any other fact besides that. So they can come in and have a hearing and explain potentially their point of view if they feel like their point of view has not been expressed. And then as a board member, and the board itself would then go through a process of explaining the reasons why there was just cause, and it really amounts to more detail than was spoken about in the meeting as stated for the reasons of removal for just cause. It basically has more information about why. It, however, indicates, or I think anticipates, no change of the removal. There's nothing in there that speaks of that in statutes. It merely just says you have a right to come in the public and know more about the reasons why you were removed, and then you have a right to elaborate on that if you choose to. But there's by no means any anticipation of a change of the removal. And a fair hearing, the fair hearing is only decided by the Board of County Commissioners. The reasons why they were removed are still there. And the fair hearing part comes in that you have allowed the board, ex-board members at this point, of trustees, to come in and hear more precisely why they were removed. And that's the long and short of it. And, the statement about being fruitless, well, I believe that's probably the most likely outcome of that, unless they could come up with something that's different than what we had heard before and could articulate that. But they're really required to have a right to speak if they wish to.
Okay. It continues, we both have worked very hard on the hospital board and are dismayed that the commissioners have elected to place the perceived problems at the hospital at the feet of the hospital board. They see the main problem as financial, but please know the hospital still has approximately $25 million in the bank and could operate with absolutely no income an additional 90 days. The hospital is not in a financial crisis.
Well, let's talk about this. I don't disagree that our past board members had good intentions. I don't disagree that they weren't working for the best interests of the county and the people in our county. I have no disagreement with that. I believe they had good intentions. They're honorable people that were serving this board in a voluntary capacity, and believe me, this board does take a lot of time and effort and thought to deal with it. Now let's talk about this, the reason, the perceived problems in the hospital. No, the problems in the hospital are purely financial. When it comes to I think the oversight level that the Board of County Commissioners look at. There were other issues about responsibilities, job responsibilities, and lack of dealing with those. The Board of County Commissioners deals directly with the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees deals directly with the CEO. And there is a chain of hierarchy. I believe I am within my rights to have conversations and collaboration with the Board of Trustees as trying to work together. And really the main point was financial. That is very true. Now let's talk about this. They have approximately $25 million in the bank. Well, I don't know what kind of money they're counting, but last count that I figure, and I did the math, they actually have $20,578,400 is what's called the monies that you're allowed to use for days cash on hand consideration. And that's really the lot of money we're talking about. Now, let's talk about the days cash on hand. They have a floor limit of 75 days as per the bond covenants. And that money is at 75 days, kind of like as collateral is for a loan that you may have. And the bond holders and the issuance of the bonds had agreements that said you're going to maintain this for a reserve for the debt you owe, which is $26 million they owe in this bond issuance debt. So obviously at the first blush, $20 million is underneath that. Now, let's talk about the floor and where the difference between where they're at and where the floor is. It's 13.7 days, or $3,178,400. That's the difference between where they're at and where 75 days is. So the amount of money they have before that financial crisis happens, and they get literally taken over by the people that have issued the bonds to make sure the bond covenants, the bond guarantees are maintained. And at that point, those folks will come into our community. They will make any decisions they feel necessary to get the days cash on hand up above 75 days. So zero isn't zero. Zero is 75 days. And that indeed is the problem. So they are in a financial crisis. It is absolutely clear. And this whole thing is backed up by Will Douglas of Wells Fargo, which is out of Denver. And he was part of the team that was involved with the bond issuance on the bank side of things. So he wrote us a letter saying there was a crisis. So, these experts that sent us a letter was that letter was taken seriously. And when you look at the declining days cash on hand from 232 days as a high to 88.7 days today, it is alarming that it's been allowed to slide, and it's a trend, not a blip, not a dip. It's a trend, and that indeed was the fiscal issue with the hospital. So I disagree with this. It's not a problem because we have 90 days till we don't have any money. Really? No, you have 75 days until you get taken over, and that's the issue that I see here with this. So I absolutely don't agree with that. I think it's inaccurate to portray that to people. It gives people the wrong idea. And thank you.
And before we continue with the letter, I do think it's important to ask, are you representing the commission or are you representing yourself in these statements?
I'll represent the commission's point of view on what I've just spoken about. Anything personal, I have to only represent myself. But if it's something that the Board of County Commissioners already decided and we've talked about in a public meeting and have a point of view, I will express that. I'll be very particular about this because anything to do with me personally is obviously not the Board of County Commissioners speaking. It's John Kolb County Commissioner speaking.
Okay, just wanted some clarification there.
Appreciate that.
Moving on to the next section. Over the past 2 years, Commissioner John Kolb, hospital liaison, has made attempts to bully not only the board but also hospital employees. Kolb led the charge against former board member Dr. Tom Spicer when the commissioners chose not to reappoint a well-respected member of this community when his term expired. We all lost on that move as Dr. Spicer brought a wealth of knowledge to the board.
Well, first off, Commissioner Kolb has just been a liaison for 1 year and 2 months, not over the past 2 years. Secondarily, this year I was reappointed as liaison for the County Memorial Hospital unanimously by my board. So that was board action. And then Commissioner Kolb, let me reassure you, myself has never bullied anybody. I'm sorry if I may have a voice the way I have, but there's been never an attempt to bully a person into doing something. I mean, that is absolutely preposterous. Those accusations came from Mr. Klein when I came in to the hospital as directed by the Board of County Commissioners to get Mr. Klein's contract. That first request was not fulfilled. As a matter of fact, it was received with a request to pay money for the documents for Mr. Klein's contract. Well, that didn't go anywhere. So Commissioner Kolb came in on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners once again, asked could I have the information that I requested in the past. I then was told, well, they weren't sure where that request went to. I go, fine, then I'll re-request it. And, thank you, have a nice day. I'll tell you what I've learned about that. I will record any interactions that I have in the future because it was an absolute misrepresentation. And I might add, none of these board members that are speaking in this letter were there to hear any of this. It is all hearsay and circumstance. And, I think it's a misrepresentation of what was said. Now, getting on to Dr. Tom Spicer. He was up for reappointment. And yes, I have an opinion because I'm the county liaison to the County Memorial Hospital. And I'll say something about Tom. He is a well-respected person. And he was the one that I personally would least not like to have replaced. However, the direction of that board, the total lack of conversation in public, lack of deliberation in public was the issue for me. So, no, I was not a proponent of reappointing Dr. Spicer. I am saddened that had to have happened that way, but my recommendation was based upon the fact of making a functional board that spoke in public about issues and did their business in public. And to that end, Mr. Spicer was a valuable part of that board in a lot of ways, but in ways that need to have change, it was not beneficial. So it was not a reappointment. It was not a removal like had to happen on Tuesday to these two board members. It was just not a reappointment.
Okay. Kolb has said on at least one occasion that he was going to get rid of the current board because, as we see it, he was not successful in his bullying ways. It has been told to us by one of the other commissioners that they as a group have, quote, no control over John Kolb and the actions he takes, even though he takes those actions as a member of the commission. The other remaining members should have taken responsibility for the actions of not only the current liaison, but any prior one when it came to trying to control the hospital.
So they're talking about myself and Commissioner Reed West right there, because the prior liaison was Commissioner West. Well, that's another bizarre way of saying something. Bullying ways. What exactly does that mean? Expressing a concern, expressing a view that the hospital was heading towards financial disaster, seeing that they were ill-informed about the facts, no desire to understand the facts, just to repeat what the CEO was telling them without reviewing those facts. Well, that is my elected job, to represent the people of this county in their best interest. And why? Because the asset, the County Memorial Hospital, is in jeopardy. Now, if doing something as an elected official is somehow wrong, well, then I suppose I'm wrong. But I don't feel that's what I was elected to do. I was not elected to do nothing. I was elected to evaluate and make the best decisions possible with the information I have. Now, there's no control over John Kolb. That's about a preposterous statement. None of us have any control over the other commissioners. We're all individuals, but we are not, in fact, the commission. We are commissioners. We are able to have our own opinions about things. That is part of being an individual commissioner, and open debate and differences of opinion. I mean, that's to be expected. You want a group of people that are mindlessly saying the same thing over and over again, either yes or no? Well, that's a problem. That's dysfunctional government. Open debate, differences of opinion, are a fact of an active board. Now, someone would say, and they said commissioners, well, this is one of these dark comments that somebody's indicating something. Well, if they knew something, they should indicate who that person is. I don't claim to have any control over Wally Johnson. And believe me, I've tried. Wally is uncontrollable. And I say that in a joking way. And same with, Commissioner Van Meter, Wendling, and Commissioner West. We're all individuals, and I'll tell you, strong individuals. Nobody is going to do anything that's not in the greater good of the public's interest. Nobody's ever done that. And I will say deliberations have happened over just what to do about this situation, individually with my co-commissioners, to work a way forward. And this action didn't happen in a week. It happened over arguably a year. I mean, according to what they say, a year and 2 months, but a year, I'd say. There's been concerns about days cash on hand falling from 230, 232 days to 88 days. So, no, I think that's a misstatement. I know that's a misstatement. And that's an active board, and I will not apologize for doing what I was elected to do.
Okay, this next section talks about another action that was taken by the commissioners on Tuesday during the meeting, in which the hospital board was reduced from a 7-member to a 5-member. Reading from the letter, we both believe the commissioners also made a mistake when they chose to move the hospital board from 7 to 5 members. Only board members and the great employees at Memorial Hospital know the amount of time we spent at committee meetings and special meetings. Now, 5 must do the work of 7. This hospital is an important and critical county business. We firmly believe that the commissioners know it will be much easier to control 5 members, and that is too less people to convince to go along with their thinking.
Our hospital was in crisis. It continues to be in a crisis because they're trying to understand their exact financial position as we speak today. The board reduction was made, quite frankly, because we need a board that can conduct business, and a quorum for 5 is 3, and a quorum for 7 is 4. The action was taken for their ability to conduct business, nothing more, nothing less. It is never the intent of the Board of County Commissioners to control, or what was said in the past, micromanage anything. The people underneath us that we have direct responsibility for is the Board of Trustees of Memorial Hospital. There is no one else that can interact with them. We're the elected ones that appointed them. The authority we have was given to them to act as a Board of Trustees member of Memorial Hospital. So there was no, this isn't a, commissioner sitting on the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees have to do their business. Now, they make the accusation that, 7 people could apparently barely do this work. Well, I don't know what was going on there, but it seemed like nobody knew anything in our meeting. Nobody could answer a question about what they were doing or why they were doing it. The answers were implausible, unbelievable, and so I don't buy that. We run the entire county as a fiduciary oversight, and we don't run the events complex or the libraries, but we have board members in place that do that for us on behalf of the citizens. So if 5 people can have oversight of all that, and I will say that a budget that totals almost $200 million in totality, includes the hospital budget of the authority to spend $90 million, then no, I think 5 people can handle this. And we have to refill those 2 other seats, in my mind, as quickly as possible with quality individuals that are going to be open and work for this county in a way that can be spoken about. And these subcommittee meetings, a secret subcommittee meeting is really the crux of the problem up there. Business conducted in these subcommittee meetings was not public. And then what was discussed then was supposed to be talked in public, and it didn't happen. I believe that leads to secrecy and lack of communication. How did they expend over $2 million for the ambulatory surgery center that never happened without any public knowledge? Now, these are the problems with these subcommittees they so talk about. I don't know, maybe they should do less subcommittees and more work.
The hospital has made big improvements over the past few years with the affiliation with the University of Utah Medical Center and their relationship with the hospital, including the wonderful additional services available to our patients with the Huntsman Cancer Center. The hospital also has an association with the Shriners Hospital for Children. Along with this, many specialty physicians have been hired, and these physicians have made the decision to stay and raise their families here in Southwest Wyoming. That benefits all of us.
Well, I think affiliations are a great thing. I think it's a great thing that we partner up and try to deliver the best quality services for the citizens of this county and the surrounding area. Why would I think it was anything less than that? I will tell you factually that the hospital board did not follow state statutes. That specifically indicates that any of these agreements had to be signed and agreed to by the Board of County Commissioners. Now, what that entails is our Board of Trustees comes up with a plan for an affiliation. They approach the Board of County Commissioners to say, we like this plan, and I don't know why anyone would be against this plan. Now, when it comes to the impact in the area, for what we brought to the area financially, that all has to be maintained financially. You can't spend more than you're receiving in revenues, as they've been doing. So the issue is we all want to deliver as many quality products of medical service to our people in our county that we can. But we can't survive and deliver more than we can afford. Dr. Dancy up there, I had a conversation with him about delivery of service, and he asked me a question. He said, what are we supposed to do? It was an honest question. And I said, first, the Board of Trustees makes those decisions together with the CEO. But I will tell you, you can't deliver more services than you can afford to. Do as much as you can with the money you have. That's, from an outsider, that I think is the best thing you could do. So they're going to have losers at the hospital, that specialties that just don't make money. But they're critical for the residents in the county to have. And you have to balance that with other things that do produce revenue so you can keep your business going. And that indeed is really the question here. It goes back to the fiduciary answer that was given earlier, that they have to be able to maintain services with revenues received.
And we'll just finish out the letter here. We would like to warmly thank our fellow board members, Jerry Klein and all the wonderful, hardworking, dedicated employees at what we consider a top-notch hospital. These employees also involve themselves in many local community events and activities to better Sweetwater County. We would also like to extend a thank you to Attorney George Limich for his many years of service to the hospital. We both put our name in for this volunteer board because of our compassion and commitment to the healthcare in our county. Thanks to all of you who reached out to both of us the past few days with your words of thanks and encouragement. We do appreciate your support. And then it's signed sincerely, Artis Kalivas and Jean Carmody, prior board members of Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County.
Well, I too would thank the people at that hospital, the physicians, support staff, and everything that goes into running a county memorial hospital. Without them, there is no hospital. And when it comes to, I suppose at the end of this, I'll state that if these members were so concerned, they had been at the meeting. And they were not. So I don't know what to say about that. They're in control of their own destiny. I do thank all of our board members that volunteer their time, and I'll restate what I said earlier, that nobody goes on to these boards to be detrimental to the board. Everybody has the best interest of the community at heart, but sometimes things do not work out correctly. Sometimes things go awry. And when those things happen and the institution, in this case the County Memorial Hospital, is threatened with being taken over and managed by another firm, the Board of County Commissioners chose not to stand idly by. They chose to take action. I would ask that people would not shoot the messenger, but look at the message. The message is we have a problem, and what we're doing currently is trying to resolve that problem. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this statement.
Thank you. This is Tracie Perkins with WYO Radio.
You have been listening to Dateline Wyoming with your host, Tom Ellis. Dateline Wyoming is a public affairs presentation of WYO Radio News presented every Sunday at this time, highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WYO Radio ownership, management, or that of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. Audio copies of this program will be available each Monday following the program's airtime on Sunday at youtube.com/WYO Radio.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. And every single day, it's information overload. It's coming at me from all directions. And you know what? Bottom line, I just need the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town. They give me the real story with information I know I can rely on. So where else can I find out what's happening in my community? Weather and traffic, things that affect my family and my business. I want to stay informed by sources I trust. My local radio stations. For the best entertainment, sports, news, traffic, and weather with no agenda and more reliable than other platforms. So if you ask me for the information I want anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local station. Text radio to 52886 today. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.